computer. Record.
There's Jasmine.
There's Jazz.
And I was just gonna take the time out to send a link, and she's right here.
Isn't that what always happens?
Yeah.
Oh, I love how everybody just appears. It's like the party just keeps so magical.
Anybody know where Emmerich is?
He will be here. I just had a meeting with him, so I know he is on this planet.
Oh, I know, because remember how last week we talked about my anxiety and how his anxiety goes?
Yeah,
he just
Emmerich
kicked up
has
again.
joined your meeting. Oh, there's Miss Eva.
Eva.
Hey.
Eva.
It is happening. Yasmin. Okay. All right.
Okay, that's everybody.
I'm looking and make sure there's no panicky emails.
Hello, Eva Cooley.
Hello.
Eva, now,
Hello.
Miss
Hello.
Sorrow.
And who was that? Are we calling ourselves a Delta? So are we waiting for more people, Pam? Or you? Well, we don't have Emmerich yet. Yeah, we've got to wait for him.
Well, I'm going to defer to Amari and Miss Janet as our facilitators. Who's that baby? Oh, I'm sorry. Don't put a baby up here and expect me not to get on my knees.
There he is.
There's Emmerich. Is she taking steps yet?
Oh.
Hi, Emmerich.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We're happy to see everyone.
Oh, that baby is growing.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Growing, indeed.
Wow.
She's so pretty.
Hi, Pamela.
Hello, sir.
We
We are recording, just so
Yes.
you know. And we're presenting Miss Amari and Miss Janet and Emmerich as our guides through this experience.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna introduce us, and then I'm gonna hand it away to Miss Janet and Miss Amari. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Truth Telling Circle. This is a second of these circles in a series that we're hoping to have completed by the end of the summer. And very grateful to sort of have this moment to reflect and talk back and hear actually, about the things that happen in the city that we love, so much. First, I'm going to go around, and the way that I'm going to do it, in sort of us introducing ourselves, I'm going to put the talking piece in the middle, and everyone, whoever is ready to speak, will pick it up. Now, in the restorative circle, usually we sit in a circle, and there is a talking piece, and the talking piece is presented as a way of distinguishing who's talking at a time. So whoever has a piece is speaking, and everyone else really listens with their hearts. We call it listening with our hearts because it's a different kind of listening than normal listening. And that's really the only way that we can describe it, as. And most importantly, everything that's said in a circle stays in a circle. And that's the beauty of circles, really, is that what stays there, what's said there stays there, but what's learned there can be used anywhere in the world in any capacity. The kind of circle that we're having today is a bearing witness circle, meaning we are here to listen, as the Greene family will then, we're here to listen to them, to bear witness to their truth, to bear witness to their experience, and to give them really time to say and freely, without any interruptions or fear that your 90 minutes will be up, and just like really speak, your truth, what happened to you here, what do you want us to know, about your experience here in Evanston. So the talking piece this time is virtual, obviously. So my name is Emric Mazibuko. I'm the Restorative Justice Coordinator for the Moran Center. And I would like for us to do the same and just introduce yourself and who you are in relation to this group here. I'm gonna place the talking piece in the middle, and whoever follows, pick it up. And when you're done, just put it in the middle, and then the next person will pick it up. And then at the end, I will determine, when we've all gone, and then we'll move on. Put in the talking piece in the middle.
What's it look like?
It's virtual. So I'm
I don't,
it's
Made
I
of
don't
wood,
see it. I
made of wood and crystal. It's wood and crystal. Yeah, it's kind of,
don't see
wood.
anything.
Okay, I'm picking up the talking piece. I'm Dolores Holmes, and I'm one of the elders of the truth-telling circles, or the peace builders for the Moran Center. Been doing this for several years now.
Okay.
I'm putting talking piece back.
So there's
So
not
I'm
a,
picking up the talking piece.
who's that?
I'm Eva Coley.
Oh, okay.
I'm also one of the elders. I have not been doing this as long as Ms. Holmes, but I'm one of the peace builders, and enjoy doing what we do. And I'm putting the talking piece down.
I'm picking up the talking piece, and I'm Janet Alexander Davis, Evanston resident for over 80 years. I am gleefully happy to be a part of this process of learning to be restorative justice facilitators through the Moran Center, and all that really can mean to community if we listen to each other in a radical way. And that's what this process really helps us to do. So I'm a peace builder too, learning, and doing it on the virtual is the first time. So I'm a little nervous, to be honest, but it'll be all right. So I'm gonna put the talking piece back in the circle.
Well, I'll pick up the talking piece. My name is Amari. I am the lead peace builder of the Moran Center. And I'm just happy to be here with you guys today and hope to learn so much. I'm putting the talking piece back in the middle.
So I just say I'm picking up the talking piece. Okay, I'm picking up the talking piece. I'm Lynn Greene, born and raised right here in Evanston. I am, I think, third generation Evanstonian here, maybe fourth, because my great grandmother was here in 1915. So been here the family's been here a long time. I am now a part-time teacher at Fusion Academy in Evanston, which is a one-on-one center for children who have issues going to school. So I teach science one-on-one. Other than that, I am retired, and I am the wife of Rodney Greene, who has a very starring career. So I'm just Rodney's wife now. I don't have any reputation of my own except as Jerry Boone's daughter. But and I don't know anything about what the Moran Center does except what Janet tells me. But it sounds very interesting. So I'm interested in learning what this is going to produce. And I'm going to put the talking center. Here's my talking center piece. I'm put it back. I got to have a visual. I'm a visual learner. So I have to have a visual cue.
Okay. I'm picking up the talking piece. That's my wife. Okay. I'm Rodney Greene. I'm not an Everstonian, but I just married one. I came here in 1988.
84.
84.
Yes,
Oh,
baby. We got married in 84.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't say we got married. I said I
Oh,
came.
okay. Never mind. Go on.
Okay, so I came here in '88 as working for Northwestern University for 20 years. Left Northwestern and went to be a city clerk for 9 years. And now I'm doing my favorite thing is acting. So here I am. I was a police chaplain as well. So I'm glad to be here and I'll be able to share some of my starry stuff. Okay. I'm now putting the talk piece down.
I'll pick the talking piece up, metaphorically. I'm Pam, and I am also not born and raised in Evanston. I came when I was 9. So the question, what is an Evanstonian?
Oh,
Which we will address. And I went up through the schools, and then I'm a Kit Kat. I went to Northwestern in journalism. And I am just so happy to be with you. And I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it as a white woman. Yeah, Amari's like, oh, I'm just gonna talk about being white again. I think it's really important that white people in this community hear these stories, hear this truth. Because you can live a whole white life and not know anything. Okay. Right? And that is, to me, a crime. That's criminal. So I just want to say I am thrilled that you are willing to have this recorded, to share this work and have it be part of the record of our community. Because thank you. Talking piece back.
Right, everybody.
now, Tay, are you there?
Right here. I am right here. I'm going to pick up the talking piece from the center. I'm Tay Shoemaker. I was born and raised in Evanston. I am a recent peace builder here at the Moran Center. And as you said, the question was, what is an Evanstonian?
No, not yet.
I'm so sorry. I'm just like, I'm still laughing. I'm just like, my head's all over the place. Y'all just have me laughing right now. I'm like, oh my goodness. But it's a pleasure to be here. Seeing familiar faces and everything like that, and meeting you too, especially. So just thank you for having me. I will put the talking piece back to center.
Well, I'll take the talking piece again and I will read something to all of us.
Wait a minute.
Wait for Jasmine.
Jasmine didn't
Jasmine.
go.
I'm so sorry. I love her and the baby. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jesse B. Go ahead.
No worries. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Jasmine. I am one of the peace builders as well. Thank you for having us here. Really appreciate it. This is going to be my first one, and I'm excited to do this with you both. And I guess I'll wait to the whole question about the Evanstonian part.
Yes. Now we're going to hand it over to Miss Amari and Miss Alexander Davis to take us through. So take it away. Talking piece back to center.
Well, I'll just start and just say how we got here. Under the Healing Generational Trauma through Intergenerational Restorative Storytelling Project by a grant from Healing, Illinois, the Moran Center launches our series of restorative circles facilitated by Moran's restorative justice staff and newly trained circle keepers, which we are. Black, Indigenous people of color, emerging adults for intergenerational dialogues, offering spaces for community elders to tell their stories about systemic violence. Healing Illinois is a racial healing initiative of the Illinois Department of Human Services and the Field Foundation of Illinois. Organizations across the state receive grants to engage in racial healing activities to help build bridges between and among the diverse communities in Illinois. So that's how we got here. Amari?
Unmute. There you go.
Okay, so like we said, we're the Moran Center's community peace builders. Gathering and our restorative staff members invite you to our second in series of the truth telling. Emmerich did go over our guidelines a little bit, but I kind of just wanted to reissue them out just in case it didn't hit us like it was supposed to yet, you know. We offer each other what we receive from each other. So we honor the talking piece. We offer radical listening, which means listening to understand and not just for a response. We practice radical honesty, and we really, 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 really honor confidentiality. Sharing is an option. Nobody has to share. It's not forced upon you. You can pass at any time. And then at the end of it all, we offer grace as you need it, as anyone else needs it. So we kind of went through and said who we are and said our role in our community or our role within the peace builders and whatnot. But we didn't really talk about what brought you guys to want to join our truth telling circle. So can I ask what made you want to be a part of this with us?
Well, I was asked by Miss Alexander. She told me about the circle and asked would I be interested. I said, sure. I'm willing to give and I'm willing to share. I guess I'm a people person, so I am so a little shy too. I know my wife say I'm not, but I just thought that it would be something to share because most of our people do not know our history. And if we don't pass it down, then the next generation is not going to know what happened or how we got here. So my thing was just trying to share what I've gone through and what I know, what I've experienced. And so that's why I took it up. And Janice said, thank you, because she said, now I put words in the mouth. If I hadn't taken it, she'd have said, Rodney, what's wrong with you? So I took it anyway. And to answer Tay's question, I was told that an Evanstonian was one who was born and raised here, and if you were an Evanstonian, you had to drive a Subaru. We got two. So that's what an Evanstonian is. My wife says no.
Can I pick up the talking piece?
Sure.
Of course.
I'll pick up the talking piece. Okay. I don't even know where to start. I know. I'm here because Rodney asked me, my husband asked me, did I want to participate? And I asked him, you know, he's funny. He really is funny, which is why he's on TV, but he doesn't give you a lot of detail. So he said, well, they just want you to tell a story. And I said, oh, well, I love to tell stories. And so when he told me that, I said, and then when I found out it was Janet, and I adore Janet, Janet actually taught me how to work. When I came here, I did not know how to work, really work, okay? Like get up on time, get to work on time, stay till it was closing time, you know, get stuff done. She taught me how to do that, for which I am forever grateful, forever grateful. And I think we also became very good friends during that time. We both love much butter popcorn, which we ate much too much of while we were working. Anyway, it sounded like an interesting thing. And I love talking about growing up here. I don't think everybody's story is the same. If you grew up here, I mean, from little kid, I was talking to another friend of mine, Ben Bridges, a couple of weeks ago, and we were laughing about the fact that we both still have a picture of ourselves graduating from nursery school when it was at the Little Church of God on Simpson Street There must have been 50 of us in that class. We were like 3, and we had on these little white caps and gowns. And that was a tradition in this community that nobody knows about. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so I love to talk about those days because those were happy times. And people don't know. They have a picture of Evanston now. That wasn't what it was when I came on the scene. So that's how I got in. I got in through my husband, who got in through Janet. I'm putting the talking piece back.
Pass it back to you, Janet.
Okay, I'd like to read this. It's called Bits and Pieces. And many years ago at a retreat I was on when I was trying to change my life and change my thinking, therefore my life changed. And it always meant a lot to me. So I'll start our session just before we start asking questions and read bits and pieces, bits and pieces. People important to you, people unimportant to you, cross your life, touch it with love and carelessness and move on. There are people who leave you and you feel relieved and wonder why you ever encountered them. There are people who leave you and you breathe a sigh of remorse and wonder why they had to go away and leave such a gaping hole. Children leave parents, friends leave friends, acquaintances move on. People change homes, people grow apart, enemies hate and go on, friends love and move on. You think on the many who have moved into lazy memory. You look on those present and you wonder. I believe in God's master plan in lives. He moves people in and out of each other's life. He leaves his mark on the other. You will find you are made up of bits and pieces of all who have ever touched your life. You're more because of it, and you would be less if they had not touched you. Pray God that you accept the bits and pieces in humility and wonder, and never question and never regret. Bits and pieces, bits and pieces.
Beautiful.
That's nice.
Yes.
I like that.
So let us ask a question. Let's begin at the beginning. When and where were you born? Tell us a little about your family. Do you have siblings? Did you grow up in a 1 or 2 parent household? Any fun memories to share? And if you forget the question, you can ask me to say some part of it.
Okay, I'll start off. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I was born 1950 on Easter Sunday. I have 1 brother and 2 sisters. Raised in the projects of Washington, D.C. My mom was a one parent home. My mom worked all the time. I was the one who took care of the siblings. My memories of this was that when my mom would go to work, she had the next door neighbor take care of us, named Miss Pauline. I could never forget this woman. And Miss Pauline would always come in and check us. We'd always have oatmeal. I hated oatmeal when I grew up because we had it every morning. But she always wanted to check us and say, well, let me look behind your ears. And if she thought it wasn't clean enough, she put spit on her finger and went behind our ears and wiped it. And I said, oh. So as time went on, I finally told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm old enough to take care of us. I don't need Miss Pauline to be coming spitting on us anymore. So I took over that. My sister and my brother, we had a lot of fun. I'll tell you one experience. I didn't know this one. One of my fond memories is that we used to play firemen. We lived in an upstairs room, and we would open up a window and we would put a blanket out the window, and 2 of us would hold the blanket while 1 climbed down and climbed back up. My brother and I held it. My sister went down. She came back up. My sister and I held it. My brother went down. He came back up. They held it and I went down. and I heard some laughter. And as I was coming back up, I was climbing in air. They had shut the window and let me go down like a fireman. So, and I hit the ground, and then they also locked the door, so I couldn't get back in the house. So I kind of took it upon myself, and I beat them. And then they said, "I'm gonna tell mom." I said, "You better not tell her I beat you again." So
Yeah.
that was a memory that I took, and it stuck to me all this time. But I grew up in the city. I had many friends, but they were also afraid. Now, do you realize I had asthma? I had it bad, and when I have an asthma attack, couldn't breathe. People thought, "Don't mess with him because he's gonna kill you. Look at him breathing like that. He gonna kill you." I said, "Don't they know I'm dying myself?" And they would run away from me because they thought the asthma would get them. But I'll cut off there and let go. But it's just a joy just to know that we survived the demonstrations and the pranks that we played on one another in childhood. I tell people now, we didn't die, but we did survive. And I think that's a good thing about it. Because if I didn't survive, I wouldn't have met my wife. I'll tell you another story about that one too. Or should I tell them then?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Not yet. Go ahead.
Oh, are you giving the talking piece?
I'm giving you the mouthpiece.
The talking piece. Okay.
Mouthpiece.
I think one of the things, well, I'll keep it short for the moment. I was born here. Actually, I was really born in Lying In Hospital in Chicago because my mother's OB was Dr. Gatlin. A couple of you may remember him. Those of you that are old enough may remember him. He was my mother's doctor, and he had he was on the staff at University of Chicago as well as community hospital. And I'm not quite sure why. I think there was a problem with the pregnancy, which is why he had my mother go down to the University of Chicago. I lived at 2021 Brown, which was a house actually built by my great grandmother most of my life until I went away to school. I left Evanston in the 70s and came back. I swore I'd never come back. I wanted a different kind of life. I think when you're coming up and you're a kid, there's like phases. There's that time when you were home, then there's that time you went to elementary school, then there's that high school time. And there's so many experiences in the midst of all of that. But I will tell you one of my favorite memories is this, and I used to tell Rodney that all the time. Our neighborhood has changed so much. But when I was a kid, on Memorial Day, the entire neighborhood smelled like barbecue. I don't think there was one house in the Fifth Ward that wasn't barbecuing on Memorial Day. And that was back when we actually had a parade on Memorial Day. And we used to get new outfits for that parade. I grew up in the era where every time there was a big event, you got something new to wear for that event. I came up in the period of time where you got dressed up on Easter. You got a new dress for Easter and new shoes. But I told my husband, I said, I didn't have a pair of red shoes, I think till I was about 20. Because when I was coming up, you had dark shoes and you had white shoes. And that was it. That was it. So it was a different time. But I remember that barbecue smell. And it would be here all summer long until Labor Day. And that's when the barbecue pits were closed. Janet, do you remember that? You remember that? It was like everybody barbecued all summer long. And so that's one of my favorite memories. So I had wonderful parents who were very strict, no nonsense. I wouldn't have dared to tell either of my parents that I wasn't going to school. The only way I didn't go to school was if I was at death's door and had to be able to prove it. Okay. Seriously, you had to be able to prove it. So and I didn't talk back, and we didn't use profanity, all of which were punishable offenses in our house. And so it was a different kind of growing up, but I was happy. They let me be me. Whatever that was on any given day, and it was never the same. So it was good. It was a happy time. And I don't think we cared about a lot of what wasn't going on outside of our neighborhood, because it was also a time when you stayed in your neighborhood and played. You didn't go all kind of places. You stayed within the 4 blocks of your neighborhood. So I was allowed from Brown to Dodge and from Simpson to Foster. And if I dared go any further than that, I guarantee you my mother would get a phone call, or my grandmother would get a phone call saying, "Did you tell Lynn she could come over here?" Okay. You know, and so we were, you learn, you might go once, but you didn't go again. Okay, because you got spanked if you did something you weren't supposed to do. So um it was a very disciplined time, but it was also very secure because we knew what the rules were and we knew what the consequences were. And so we grew up happy in that knowledge. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the truth. And I was here till I was 18, left, and I didn't come back until Rodney got the job at Northwestern, and he brought me back here. I actually we were in DC, where I loved it, did my graduate work there. And then we moved to Atlanta, which I really loved. Janet, I loved it because it was slow. Okay. It was slow. Nobody was on time anywhere in Atlanta, ever. Ever, ever. We went to church, you know, he insisted we get there at 9:30. You were the only ones there, and we were visitors. Okay. I loved the South. It was a place where you strolled, where you sat on your porch and waved to people you didn't know. Everybody talked to you. I loved it. And it was warm all the time. I had flowers right up until December, and they came back in February. So we got snow once and the whole city shut down. The whole city shut down. And we looked outside, it was like 6 inches of snow. And we were like, what snow? Okay, but they didn't have any plows. So I had to wait for it to melt. So it was a wonderful experience, but we came back here, and within, I'd say, about a year, we were totally involved in the community back here again. A number of my old friends came back at the same time. So I knew it was time for me to be back home at that time. So that's it. And here I am now, and happy to be among acquaintances I had before. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The talking thing.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I'll take it back. I'll take the pencil back. Wow. Well, okay. Rodney, you moved back here, and of course, Lynn, you were really raised here. Did you face any discrimination or racism if you knew it? What did it look like and feel like to you?
Well, when Lynn and I got married, she said she never wanted to come back to Evanston or Illinois. And I applied for jobs all over. I applied for jobs in DC, in Maryland, here in Chicago, and every door and window shut, but the one here in Northwestern. And so I finally called. I said, "Dr. Lawrence, is the job still open?" He says, "Oh yeah, we didn't think you wanted." He says, "We'll send for you." So I came here, did the interview, and I came back and I told Lynn, I said, "Honey, I know you never wanted to go back, but the only job that's open is the one at Northwestern. So I'm taking you back to your hometown." She said, "Oh no." We get here, and her mom, and she said, she tells her mother, no, her mother said, "I'm glad you're home." And she said, "No, Mom, this is not my home." And mother said, "What do you mean?" She said, Atlanta's
my home.
Atlanta's not my home. And she said, "But you were born and raised here." And I said, "Well," and then she looked at me and said, "What you do?" I said, "I do nothing, do nothing." When I got here, I worked for Northwestern for 20 years. I worked in the cardiothoracic research department. I ran the research lab for Northwestern. I taught medical students and postdocs surgical skills to get hearts ready for transplants. That means I showed them how to take a vessel out of the leg, how to open up the chest, how to spring the heart, how to sew the vessel on the heart for bypass surgery. And I did that for 20 years. I got tired of that. So I resigned because number one, they said I cost them too much. I was on a grant, so the grant was running out and it cost too much to keep me. So I left. I sat around the house for a while, and then my Lynn was saying that I should find something else. Even the dog looked at me when I was home.
He was tearing up the house, trying to fix stuff that wasn't broke.
Oh, you ain't have to throw that one in there.
I know there's some people that know what I'm talking about.
So I sat around, and my mother-in-law said, well, there's a job open at the city. The clerk is leaving. I said, but I don't know anything. She said, well, go ahead and apply. She said, I know Lorraine Morton. I said, okay, I'll go and try. So I went and applied. I was in the hospital when I got a phone call from her secretary and said, Mayor Morton wants you to come in for an interview. So I told the doctor, I said, look, I got an interview Monday morning. You got to let me out here so I can go for this interview. I said, I'll come back if you need me. So I got out the night before, went to the interview, met with Mayor Morton, and she said, okay. I showed him a resume and everything. And she said, okay, now go down to your office. I said, what office? She said, you hired, you're the new clerk. I said, oh, okay. I go in, sit down. It was very interesting. I had a great staff, made some changes. It was just a great opportunity because when when my son was in college, Lynn would leave town, and she said, now, honey, while I'm gone, I want you to trim the bush back. Oh. Okay, I trimmed it back down to the ground. The next time she went out of town, she said, because the back steps are so dark, could you paint some leaf colors, green leaves on the steps so we can see it? I said, okay. I didn't realize, I tried this. I took a leaf off the tree, put it on the step, put some green paint on it, pulled the leaf up, and it was a big blob. And I said, oh, I can't do this. I painted the whole step fluorescent
neon green. Neon fluorescent green. The back stairs.
So when they came back home, AJ walked through the back door and he said, Mom, look at this. She said, what? She said, look what Dad did. She said, oh, honey, people can see those green steps outside the alley. AJ said, no, Mom, they can see from that airplane up there. So, so they told me that you have to go get another job. You can't stay home. You can't stay home. So that's when I applied for the job in the clerk's office. I did it for 9 years, made a lot of changes, got some things done.
You dealt with a lot of prejudice over there too, though.
Yeah, it was a lot of prejudice. So
it was.
So the second, I think the fourth week, the first month after I was the clerk, I was driving home in my son's car, and his car had tinted windows. And so I'm driving up the street, and as soon as I turned the corner on Brown Avenue, police lights I saw behind me. I pulled over. My neighbors came out, stood on the step to find out why I was being pulled over. And the police officer came to my door and says, I'd like to see your license and registration. And I said, well, what did I do? Well, we couldn't see inside your car. I said, what do you mean you couldn't see inside my car? So I said, do you know who I am? He says, who? I said, I'm the city clerk. And he said, oh, okay. So he went back to the car, brought his partner, and they both come out, one on each side, had their hand on their gun. And the woman says, I understand, he says you're the city clerk. She said, what city? I said, Evanston. I swore you two in. And she looked at me, she said, oh, yes, he is the city clerk. I said, so what was the reason for stopping me? They said, we couldn't see in your car. I said, you know what? This is not my car. this is my son's car. I'm gonna go home right now and take this tinted off so you won't stop him. My neighbors came out there and said, Mr. Greene, what they stop you for? Because everybody on the block knew everybody, and they came out to see what was going on. After that, I had no more problems with the police department, but I became a chaplain later on down the road. And I went to the Citizen Police Academy. I went to the Fire Academy. I just finished my my class in the CERT so I could be a community emergency response team member. Oh, that's a lot of fun. If you haven't done it, y'all should do it too. Go on there. I also, while here, I became the surrogate father of every kid on the block. We would go to the parks, we would have races, and and they would say, Mr. Greene, you can't outrun us. I said, well, I'll run backwards and I bet I can still beat you. So I would turn, I give him a little run ahead and I run backwards and I beat him. They said, oh, you pretty fast. I said, yeah, it may have gray on the top, but the furnace is still burning. I can still beat you all. So it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the kids. Now those kids are grown and got kids and they still remember me. I was the doctor, the lawyer, the Indian chief, the medicine man. I was everything for everybody on this block. And they used to come and sit on my step and ask questions when I was a clerk, Dolores, and say, well, what about this? I'll go through, well, we come down and say, but you know, it's something you can do easy. But my life has just been a joy. I left the clerk's office in 2017 and I went back to what I really love the most, and that's acting. So I've been doing a lot of acting on a lot of the TV shows. Got some new ones coming up. I've done a couple of plays. That's what I love. And I tried to get Lynn to come with me. She said, no, that's your joy, not mine. And the only way people know me is through you because you see my face on your Facebook page. So she keeps pushing me. She supports me. And it's a great thing. So now I'm going to turn over the what you call the speaking piece.
Talking piece.
To somebody else and let it go from there. But that's some of what I've gone through. And I'll give you another story later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Am I supposed to go now? Am I supposed to go now? I've got the talking piece. One of the things, I don't know that if I ran into racism, I wasn't aware of it because it wasn't something that our parents talked about. In fact, my parents told us, you can do anything you want to do. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do something, okay? I ran into it. I went to Haven and I was the only Black kid in my class. I had a cousin, his name is Ed Turner, and he was in another class. We're the same age, but we were in different classes because they had so many kids, so they would have 2 first grades, 2 second grades, 2, baby boomer stuff. And it was interesting because it was like going from one world to another world. I would go to school and I would be with those kids and learn how to do stuff, with them, went to school with them. And then I came home and I was home. The community I lived in was home. This street stayed the same, I think, as far as people living on it for years. This was actually, I think, Janet, you remember this. This is actually one of the oldest neighborhoods that stayed the same for a long, long time. When I came back, there were quite a few, 85, 86, 87, 80, 89-year-olds still living in this neighborhood in their homes. One of the sad things that happened was that their kids did not want to stay here. And so when they passed away, their homes went on the market, all right, and a different type of people bought them. These people weren't like neighbors. In fact, our neighborhood, one of the things we always did was made sure we knew who everybody was. I am a fierce gardener, and I want you to be a fierce gardener too. So I would go if people's yards, like the parkway, the parkway out in front of your house, I would actually plant other people's trees along there. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I want it to look really pretty. And I didn't think you felt like being bothered. So I planted it anyway. And what happened was actually the whole neighborhood began to sort of do that. Everybody kind of wanted to participate in that. We knew we had a son who was an only child. And so we really tried to foster participation of other kids in the neighborhood. And as a mom, I thought, well, I'd rather have them at my house than not know where AJ is. So we usually had a lot of kids over at our house. They about ate us out of house and home. But when I was a kid, that's the way it was. You went over to people's houses. You asked your parents' permission. If it was a rainy day, you went over to somebody's house who had a porch. So you could still play outside, okay, but you were on the porch and your parents knew where you were. We had wars. We climbed trees. We were not allowed to cross the street. You could go down the alley, but you couldn't cross the street. You could play what we called kickball, I don't know what they call it now, in the alley. And those games got pretty fierce. We didn't have a lot of equipment. I mean, life was simple, but fun and creative. I think that's one of the things that a lot of kids miss out on now because they don't play outside. They're in the house, on their computers, on their phones, playing video games, and they haven't developed the ability to problem solve. If you know what I mean, you get into a tussle about who's safe and who's not safe and who's on what base and who's on another base. And we resolved it. Nobody ran in the house to get their mother or their daddy to come out there and solve the problem. It was solved right there. We got along. We made ourselves get along because if you went in and complained to your parents, your parents would tell you to go out there and fix it. All right. Don't be coming in the house. Go settle it. All right. And that's basically what we would do. We weren't angels. I remember being filthy all the time. The only time I was really halfway clean was when my grandmother was babysitting, and that's because she would make me come in the house at noon, eat lunch, and take a bath. I was the only kid that had to do that. Okay, so she would make me come in and take a bath because she said, you don't look like a lady when you're all dirty. It was growing up in a society within a society. We were our own community. Our parents, I don't think people could go to places like the Women's Club when I was coming up. I don't think they could. I don't think there were a lot of clubs people could go to because I remember they were always having like bridge parties at home, or my parents were going to a bridge party someplace. There were picnics. One of the biggest ones was the Bachelor and Benedict's picnic during the summer. I think everybody that was Black in Evanston went to that picnic. Everybody. So it was a big community event. The interesting thing was when I would talk to my friends at Haven, the white kids at Haven, they didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. We roller skated at Foster Center. I don't know, did anybody else learn how to roller skate at Foster Center besides me? You did too? Okay. One of the best things about it was that the refs, I think there's only like 3 of them still living here now. But anyway, they were really, really tall. They were super tall and they wore black and white ref shirts. And when I was little and learning to skate, they would have all this Motown music on. So you learn to skate with the music and you learn how to do the rhythm with the music. But if you fell, they would pick you up so fast. I mean, you weren't on the floor longer than about 10 seconds. And they would pick you up and they would whisper in your ear, now you're not going to cry, are you? And so, of course, you didn't. Okay, you didn't. And they would put you down and they would get you swinging and make sure your all 4 wheels, both feet were on the floor, and they'd let you go again and you'd skate. That is one of my favorite memories. And those guys, to me, were like the big heroes. They were the big brothers in the community. And I always looked up to them for that. There's a few of them still actually living here in the neighborhood that I see every now and then. But that's whenever I see them, that's the first thing I see and that's what I remember. When I went away to school, it was a different experience again. So I love the community aspect of Evanston that we had coming up. This was a community. And it wasn't like that when I went to visit my white friends. They lived very quiet lives. When you went to somebody's house, it was very quiet. They didn't talk loud. We couldn't play outside unless we played in the backyard. And when they came over here, oh my goodness, it was like culture shock. And they would come over here. Their parents would come meet my parents. It was almost like they wanted to be sure their kids were going to be safe. They would play over here, and they would have such a good time that it got so they wanted to be here rather than at their house. It was just that different. The only time I ran into any kind of racism was interesting. ETHS used to have a system of classes. They had basic, regular, and honors. Okay. And when you tested in middle school and then you got placed. When I got to ETHS, I left Haven with straight A's. When I got to ETHS, all the other kids that had straight A's, they were in honors classes. I wasn't. And I didn't understand why I wasn't. So I came home and I talked to my parents about it. They went to the school and asked the school, why are these kids in these classes and she's not? And the response was, well, she's she's got some weakness in math and she's got some this, and but if she continues to make really good grades, we'll move her up. Well, it took, I think, a whole semester finally to move me up at least into honors English and honors math. But in that class were all these kids that I'd been in school with at Haven, knew that I had outscored them, but for some reason they were rated higher, okay, than I was. And then when I said where I wanted to go to college, I mean, this kind of thing stopped after, I think it was my sophomore year. By that time, my dad had been up there a couple of times. And if you know my dad, you'd understand. My dad he didn't say a lot. It's just the way he looked at you and his tone of voice. He was a person whose voice got lower and quieter the angrier he was. So he went up there. And so the next year I was in honors class because I think they just didn't want to talk to him anymore. And I did fine. I was unique in that I did a lot of stuff that other Black kids didn't do. I was in the shows. I mean, there were Black kids in the shows with me, but not a lot. I didn't play bid whist because I'm just not a card player, but a lot of people did. My parents always emphasized academics. But when I wanted to go to college, my advisor said to me, well, I don't think you can get into that school. And I asked her why. And she said, well, you don't have, she couldn't say I didn't have the grades. She couldn't say that. So she says, well, those schools, they really just don't accept a lot of colored children. That's exactly what she said. And I just kind of looked at her and I thought, what are you talking about? Because I didn't understand that. The statement didn't even make sense. What did my being Black or colored have to do with getting into college? I had never heard anything like that before. And so I came home and I told my mother, and she said, don't worry about it. You apply wherever you want to go. I said, okay. So we did. And I got into the school I wanted to go to. And I got into quite a few others. And I remember taking those acceptance letters and walking into my advisor's office and saying to her, I got in, okay? And I threw the letters on her desk so she could see it. And I remember she looked up at me with this funny look and she said, oh, I'm so happy for you. She wasn't. She was surprised, extremely surprised. That's the only time I ever really felt like, this is very odd. You know what I mean? It was weird. And it was by that time it was the 60s. And a whole lot of stuff was going on in the 60s. And that's when I began to realize that there are people out there who will try to stop me just because of the way I look. Okay, that was my introduction to that. And it kind of bothered me, but at the same time, again, this goes back to my parents. Don't let, when somebody gets in your way, step over them and keep going. That's basically what they always say, don't let these people get in your way. And I remember saying to my grandmother how upset I was. She said, listen, it's not worth your worry. She said, I'm going to tell you something else. Don't worry when people talk about you. Worry about it when they don't talk about you. Right? I just had wise people around me all the time. And in the neighborhood, wise people all the time. People who would say, we're so proud of you. You go, girl. We're so proud of you. If you had a performance, they would show up. The neighbors would show. It was a community. It was a village. it was a village. This area, it was a village. And so I loved that. I absolutely loved that. And when I left here to go away to school, that was a whole other ball game there, going away to school. So, but that's really my experience here in Evanston. At that time, during those times, it was an exciting time to be here, but it was a big learning time to be here. Things were changing, people were changing, and yet that community love was always there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was always there. It's like, I can talk about my brother, but don't you talk about my brother. It was that kind of thing. And but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
And that's just exactly how I saw it when I moved here, is that the friendliness there. But it took a while, because I would be at church, and I did a evangelistic effort once, and I went to hug the lady who orchestrated it, and they said, "Oh, you can't hug her." I said, "Why not? She's a married woman." I said, "Well, I'm a married man. So what's the problem?"
Didn't understand.
I didn't understand it, but because see, when we lived in Atlanta, everybody hugged,
Everybody.
and you just had that. I'm just a touchy-feely person. Well, I used to be. I think I still am.
You still
But
are.
it was a thing where you reached out and you touched folk, and I think I never really experienced any racism here either. It's just that you don't, when you raised in a way that you don't recognize the color of a person's skin, it doesn't affect you. When AJ had trouble at school at Kingsley, he came home and say, "This boy is doing this to him." I said, "Well, describe to him." "Well, he's a boy." I said, "Well, AJ, what it is?" I'm trying to find out if he's white, black, or whatever. AJ never really looked at
know.
He didn't look at the color. He said, "Well, he's got curly hair." And so when we finally met him, we grew up in a way, we taught him that you don't look at a person's skin color. So I never knew what it was until we met the little boy. And I said, "Oh, he's Caucasian." AJ say, "What's that?" So the thing is, when you look at things like that and you raised up in a way, then you don't look at a person's skin color. You're looking at their character. And I think that's the biggest problem that we may have around the world, is that people look at the outside and they don't want to delve inside. And so you have that problem of racism, hatred, and sometimes people hate and don't know why. It remind me of the McCoys and the Hatfields.
Hatfields and the McCoys.
who fought for years, but yet their great-grandchildren didn't know why they were still fighting. And that's just how it is with us here. We don't pass our history down. And we don't do it. The Jews pass their history down. The Native American Indians pass their history down. The Hispanic pass their history down. But we Blacks don't do that. And that it causes a problem for us relating, because sometimes we live in a little bubble, and we don't go outside that bubble until somebody bursts it, and then you wonder why it happened to you. So I experienced a lot of that while I was in DC during the riots, because my mother went through it, and because my mother was what you call high yellow. She was very light skinned. So you either high yellow or
that's what it was here. The high yellow was here.
Yeah. And so she would she worked in Rockville, Illinois.
Rockville, Maryland.
Rockville, Maryland. Getting on the bus, she was the lightest one on the bus, so they were calling all kinds of things and throwing rocks at her. And so when she got off, she said, they used to say, "Come on, sister." She said, "I know sister you. I wasn't no sister when I was on the bus." So she would come home and tell us that, and said that, and with that, I said, "Mom, why was that going on?" And then she would tell you that it's again the mentality that we have here, where they think you're lower. And my mom always told me, treat every woman like they're your queen. Be nice to everybody. Don't do anything wrong. she taught me to say, if you're walking with a woman, you walk on the outside, so if a car jumps the curb, it hits you first. Open the doors for them. And I used to do that in college, and the girls I used to put in my car would be laughing for years. They did, and then they finally told me, say, we used to laugh at you because we used to see you run around to the door to open the door for us, and we just say, watch, he gonna do it again, he gonna do it again. But I talk to young men the same way. I tell them, said, you got to treat the woman like, give respect. Don't buy these records where they calling her a bees and putting them down. I said, why do you do that? That's just demeaning their character. My life is a way that I want to share. I want to be able to give you what I can help you with down the road. And it's just one of those things. And even when I became the first Black city clerk that Evanston ever had, it was a little stuff like that at that time too, where they questioned me. Dolores, I think I remember, some of them questioned me. Well, how can you be a clerk and you in medicine? And my question came up because Dolores could tell you I had about a 5-page resume with everything. I said, well, I do write things. I do have, I did train folk. I did work with this. I said, it can't be much indifferent. My only problem is being a clerk at that time, and Dolores can remember this. I used to have minutes that were 5 pages long. And they said, your minutes are too long, because I was writing like I was writing a scientific paper. So it got to the point I had to knock it down. But those are the little things I had. It's only a few things that came up. But to me, I didn't let it bother me. I did my job. And that's what I say. Do the best you can where you are, and things will be better. And if they don't get better, you can leave. I always tell folk, the Bible saying is, if they don't adhere to your advice, kick the dust off your shoes and move on. And so many times we got to do that, but you got to also realize why you're doing what you're doing. And I think I may have gone on a little bit more, but Jan, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give the what you call the thing, speak piece back to you.
I'm taking the piece back. I'm going to ask one more question, and then Amari's she's got some questions to ask too.
Okay.
So can you describe the two worlds of Evanston and Northwestern? And I think that's something you wanted to know or to talk about, Rodney.
Okay, yes. Well, the two worlds, there's a big discrepancy. Most Evanstonians don't believe that Northwestern gives enough to the city. And sometimes Northwestern don't feel that the people, the residents, don't respect them. But when I worked on both sides of the fence, I say, well, it's got to be an understanding. There's many things that Northwestern did for Evanston that a lot of folk don't realize. There are things that the city has done for Northwestern that their students and administrators don't realize. But when you sit down and talk about what has progressed, we've gotten closer in relationships. Mayor Morton brought Northwestern and the city closer together. Tisdall did it again, pulling it close. And there are things that were going on that the normal regular person doesn't realize how much Northwestern really supports the city. And with that, and I know they always say, well, they're not paying they should give us more money. They don't know the monies that Northwestern's put into the city, nor the things they bought for them, but a lot of folk don't know that. So they still badmouth Northwestern, but then also some of the Northwestern people badmouth the city. Well, they don't appreciate what we do and all this. So it's a two-folded thing, and the worlds are different. But if you live in both, I do remember this though. When I was working for Northwestern in downtown, and when there was a rally or march, I was told, I know you live in Evanston, but if we find that you have partake in a march, then you were fired. I said, but I lived there. I should support my neighborhood. Then when I was in working in the city, don't support Northwestern. You know, it was just two-sided affair where you had to really know both sides to really get involved. And I think my biggest problem was that no one really wanted to sit down and talk. And that's where the discrepancy comes in, where that your misunderstandings come in. Until you sit down and walk in somebody else's shoes, then you're not gonna know what they're doing. But afterwards, I believe the relationship has gotten better. And we hope it stays that way. But right now, that was my thing, because I had both sides of the fence. I was there in Northwestern. I was a homeowner. I said, yeah, the taxes going up, but it ain't Northwestern's fault, even though they start moving further west, taking stuff off the property line. But it wasn't because they were doing it as a torment to us. But properties came up, and if you had the money to buy it or purchase, we'll purchase it. If we had kept our homes like we did and stayed when our parents got older or died, then that would not be a problem as well. But again, we can't blame somebody else. We have to take responsibility for ourselves and stop being crabs in a barrel, pulling each other down when one goes up, and get rid of that plantation mentality. Drop it and move on. Okay, I'm done. Did I get your answer? I'm giving it back to you. Amari.
Well, that was wonderful. Well, that was wonderful. So I guess we could go back to the question that everybody's talking about, and what really makes you an Evanstonian.
Okay. I'll go back to you again. Number one,
How you know?
You're
not an Evanstonian.
I know I'm not. Hey,
You're not an Evanstonian.
Amari, let me tell you what they told me. They said,
all right, you tell me what they told you, and I'm gonna let you know if it's right or not, because I'm a true Evanstonian.
Okay. Amari, they said, now Rodney, we love you. You married into an Evanstonian family, but when you die, on your tombstone, let's say Rodney Greene married Lynn Boone Greene. He was a city clerk, but he was never an Evanstonian. And they will put that on my tombstone. I said, what? I said, you're very cliquish. They said, we can't help but you never Evanstonian. You came in and married an Evanstonian family, but you're not an Evanstonian. So you got to be born and raised here. You got to be driving a Subaru. You got to be, everybody in the neighborhood's got to know you. So that was the definition I got. And you hear my wife said I'm an Evanstonian too.
That one was wild. I agree with you, Rodney. That one was wrong right there. What about you, Miss Lynn Greene? What makes you an Evanstonian?
I think we have, well, those of us that are older, I think we have an attitude about things that's, I don't know, you almost had to have been here to understand it. It's like you can drive all over town and you know what was there, what happened there, or what happened over there, or what that used to be, or where that used to be, or what Ebenezer looked like before they remodeled it. Or, you know, it's that kind of thing. It's even like, how many of you, I don't know how many of you drive like this, but when you want to come over in on Simpson Street where Walgreens is, I hope I'm talking what everybody understands. When we take Ridge or even Green Bay Road, we cut down by what used to be the hospital supply building. It's now owned by Northwestern, but it used to be the American Hospital Supply Company. And it goes down by what is now the Evanston City Works. I guess it's where the garbage trucks go. And see, Dolores knows what I'm talking about. And where it used to be, and part of that used to be a cement company. And every winter, every Christmas, they put a Christmas tree up on top of the crane. Anyway, you drive down through there so you can pick up Simpson Street right there where City Hall is. And City Hall used to be St. Mary's High School. And so you cut down there to get in the neighborhood. It's a short way to go. You avoid about 5 lights going that way. And my husband is always, well, we do this all the time when we're driving. I say, don't go that way, go this way. Don't go that way, go this way. Well, he likes lights. I hate lights. Okay. But my dad hated lights. So when I learned to drive, of course, I learned to drive the routes where there were no lights. Okay. And the first time we brought somebody home, we brought our pastor home one time. He claimed that we were taking him down an alley. And I informed him that was not an alley, that was a real street.
Leon, Leon.
A street. And so that's the kind of stuff. Like I remember when Mr. Perrin, all this area by the canal now, you know, guys, this is all park. I'm sure you've seen it. It's all park. It's bike paths and trees and sculpture gardens, all that. Well, when I was a kid, I used to get up very early in the morning, and I always had a dog. I always had a great big dog. And I would take my dog and I would go out like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was the only time I was allowed to cross the street, to walk over by the canal. Now, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near it, but that whole area used to be like prairie, wild prairie. And you could see pheasants and woodpeckers and turtles and all kinds of blue jays, all kinds of birds and stuff, all kind of wildflowers grew over there. And at the very end, before you got to Green Bay Road, was Mr. Perrin's stables. He had horses over there. And I used to walk around, and of course I'd come home filthy, but it was like, that was where you could go. To be an Evanstonian, when you drive around this city, okay, those are things you should know. You should know what was there before. Like I remember where Weebolts was. Now you guys, some of you younger ones never even heard of Weebolts, have you? I remember when downtown was a real downtown. I remember that. You could buy anything down there. There were dime stores. I don't think they even have dime stores anymore. They're kind of like what you see now as a dollar store, but we had dime stores. There were 2 of them. It was just different. I think that's what we mean when we say Evanstonian. We remember the things that happened before. And it's not meant to be really an insult. I think what it's really meant to be is it's kind of a little exclusion club. Okay, it's a little club, okay, that some of us belong to, okay, and it's something that nobody can ever take away. Does that make sense? It's like nobody can take that away from us. It's like we remember, no matter where we go, there's something there we remember, and it might not be there anymore. Okay, I remember the first time I went with my dad to that newspaper store on Main and Chicago. Okay. And my dad said to me, now listen, if you ever need a newspaper from someplace else, this is where they sell it. Okay. That's insider information. You don't move to Evanston and learn that. Okay. You don't. We always went to Greenwood Street Beach. Well, you want to hear something interesting? And is it Pam? Where's Pam? I don't see. Okay. The white kids called it Lee Street Beach. Okay. And I couldn't figure out where they were going. When they went to the beach, they went to Lee Street Beach. My parents always took me to Greenwood Street Beach. Guess what? It was the same beach. Okay. It was the same beach. So I think that's what we mean by an Evanstonian. Our grandparents were here. Okay. I can tell you who lived in every house on my street when I was coming up. Okay. They're all gone now. They're all gone now. Well, with the exception of me, okay? They're all gone now. And we recently, last year we lost Mrs. Bridges, okay? And Ms. Murphy has moved to Atlanta. Those people were here when I was growing up. And so I think that's what we mean by an Evanstonian. An Evanstonian is a person who has a real sense of history of the Black community in Evanston. Does that make sense? Because it was a real community. It was our own little club. Okay, it's our own little club. Some of you may remember this. I went with my dad to the Heinz Lumber Company fire. Okay, now you younger ones, do you remember that? Do you know anything about it at all? The Heinz Lumber Company was right. Okay, if you know where the what's the name of that park on the other side of the tracks on Church Street, where they have the basketball tournament every year?
Mason.
You know, they have that slam dunk. Yeah, that one. Yeah, where they have this. All right. Across from there, where those new townhouses are, that used to be a huge lumber company here. It was called the Heinz Lumber Company. And that's where you went to get wood, I guess, if you were going to build something. But it caught fire. And it was an all alarm fire. And my dad used to have one of those illegal 5-channel, they used to call them, I think, 5-channel radios where you could pick up police calls. Okay. He always had it on because he liked to take pictures. And he heard this call. And I said, Daddy, where you going? And he said, I'm going to see the fire. I said, oh, please, can I go? And he said, yeah, you can go. So he put me in the car and off we went. And we stood over where Mason Park is now. I think Mason Park was there then, but it wasn't as nice as it is now. And we watched that place burn to the ground. And I remember my dad was taking pictures and I said, who set the fire? Why is it on fire? And Daddy said, I don't know. But there were some older men behind us that were talking. And I heard them say it was burned to the ground because they would not hire any Black people to work there.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, why? Again, naive, had no clue. They would not hire any Black people to work. So somebody set it on fire and burned it to the ground. They never built it back. But I think everybody in the community was at that fire. Okay. And I actually have all my dad's old film, and my brother and I were saying, one of these days we're going to sit down and find a projector. We're going to look at all these movies and see what's in here, because I think there's a lot of Evanston history in there. Okay. But I mean, when I tell you everybody was out there, I mean, there were just people just standing around, okay, watching this place burn. That's what being an Evanstonian is. That's what I mean. It's a collective, what do you call it? Collective memory? It's a collective memory. Okay. Sorry.
I guess I'm not Evanstonian then. Okay.
Well, you ask. I'm giving it back. Okay,
it's okay, Mr. Greene. I'm born and raised here, and I don't know too much of what she was talking about anyway, so we okay.
Oh, you have to ask your grandparents if they were here, because I'm going way
My
back.
grandparents are no longer here, so it's,
Okay.
you know,
No,
that's,
you can't ask
that's
them.
not what I could do. I can't do that, but
Okay. Well, now you are
we
part
hear
of
a
the
lot of stories.
collective memory. You are part of it now because I just told you. Okay. I just told you, so now you're part of the collective memory. We should actually, you know what would be a good idea would be to put little placards up in these places I'm talking about, where things used to be and where stuff happened. Because these are memories, like I said, it's a collective memory, but it's for some of us, not all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I can give you that. That's true. That's way far back for me, but you know, I still remember. I miss the Dominics. I miss the Ramses. Yeah, I miss
Oh,
what
yes.
was gone from my time. You know. But
go ahead.
On to our next question. I just want to know if Janet, if you have anything, Mr. Greene and Mrs. Greene, if there was anything left unsaid, if you guys would like to add anything. I do want to take this time out to open the floor to my coworkers and see if they have any questions they want to ask as well.
Well, I can just say that since being here in Evanston, it's been a joy. We do take care of our neighborhood. I think we got one of the cleanest streets in the neighborhood, because my buddy across the street, Paul Howlett, and I used to always go every Sunday with our little hand pickers and pick up the trash and put it in the bags and clean up. We say, they ain't gonna mess up our streets. Used to have cars being parked on our street with people trying to hide it from the repo man. And I look at it and say, oh, that car don't belong over here. Used to have people come over and work on their cars in the alleys, and I hear them come say, hey, the cops are on their way, get out. They run. There have been times where I sit there and I call the police. I say, and what makes it so funny, the police came to my house, knocked on the door, and said, what's I say, yeah. So I came out, and everybody on the block who was doing wrong things came out and watched. I said, yes, I called the cops. So what you gonna do? My wife said, honey, don't do that. You don't know what's gonna go on. What's gonna go on? I said, but you know what? I let them know I'm not afraid. And from that point on, everybody on the block, Mr. Greene, how you doing? How you doing, Mr. Greene? You know, it was just that we, again, when you learn about the people on your blocks, the troubles and the problems decrease. When you don't, and we know everybody on the block, we know every new neighbor to come in because we go over there and introduce ourselves.
Introduce ourselves.
Yes. And it's just that way. So I enjoy being here. I enjoy being in the ward, and I can say one thing: since I've been here, I gotta give another shout out. Uh-oh, what happened? Did I just speak? Oh,
Nah, you still here.
give another shout out. Alderman Holmes, my dear friend, I love so much, has done so much for this community, this fifth ward. I could always shout out for her, and I will always do whatever if she called us, right, to come over and jump off my roof for me. I may do that, but I just want to say that she's been a godsend to me the whole time I've been here too. And I just want to say, keep up good work. And if there's anything you ever need me to do, you let me know. Okay, that's it. I'm finished. Okay.
Anybody else?
I'll pick up the talking piece. I'll pick it
sorry.
up. I'll pick up the talking piece. I would screen the pictures. I'm as a visual person. If you have any pictures of past Evanston, like what you're describing, the fires, I mean the place you're describing, that's around where our youth center is standing now, and people don't know anything about what was happening. I had no clue. I've been in Evanston for, a little over 20 years now. My wife was born here. I don't know any of the stuff that you're talking about, and it's so fascinating to me. Hearing about the Heinz building that burned down, and the whole community came to watch it burn to the ground because it didn't employ anybody in that community anyway. It's the most incredible thing to me that I've ever heard, and I was just so moved. Just like seeing Black people just like watching this building that they used to spend their money to buy stuff, but they could never, just like watching it burn, and it's in their neighborhood. That is a beautiful, like an incredible image in my head. Yeah. That's Evanston.
That's Evanston.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you. That's just, I just wanted to say that. I just want to thank you for that. And those stories, oh my God, we need to hear them.
And the other thing we'll keep in mind is that the Blacks could not go to the hospitals to have their babies or get sick or get health. But we had a hospital that was right down on the corner of our block where all the Blacks, most Blacks were born here in Evanston in that hospital, which is now the over the rainbow facility. But that used to be
the hospital it's still, the building is still there. Yes. The cornerstone is still there. But it was funny because when I went to work, I said to Janet, have you ever been down to where the morgue is? Janet was like, what? I used to work there when I was a kid. I'll tell you something. There's an interesting thing about racism in some areas. I don't know if this happened in others, but I'm sure it did. You know, when in the 50s and early 60s, I don't think the so-called professional world paid much attention to what Black people were doing, even in Black hospitals. That doesn't mean they weren't licensed or anything like that. The Joint Commission on Hospital Accreditation came to community hospital every year to check it out. But I think that was the only time anybody ever came to check what was going on. And really, Dr. Hill, it was wonderful to be able to be someplace where you could see Black doctors walking around taking care of people. They talked to you. They were willing to teach you. I was allowed to work there for the summers and learned laboratory technology at the age of 16. And I remember when the pathologist, we didn't have a pathologist, so when somebody died, somebody had to come in to do the autopsy if it was requested, because they wouldn't do them at Evanston Hospital or St. Francis. They didn't let Black people go there. And again, I'm naive. I have no clue what the problem is, but I really didn't care, because for me, I got to do some really cool stuff. And I remember they didn't have an assistant for the pathologist at that time. And I had been at community, this was like my second year working there. And he said, you want to come help me? I said, yeah. Okay. So down we went to the morgue, and I actually got to assist on an autopsy, okay, at community hospital at the age of 16. All right. I had no idea how they worked. I didn't know what they did. You know, you talk about it and you see it on TV. It's not like that. Okay? At least it wasn't then. And I remember he takes out this saw. Did you know that when they do an autopsy, they actually cut back here at the base of the head and they pull all the skin forward. And then they pull all the skin forward.
Yeah.
That's why you never see where they took the cap off of the person to look at the brain. You never see it because the stitches are back here. I learned that was just one day in that hospital. So in a way, they, you know, the people that were trying to continue this sort of separation, I think in real estate, they call it the red line. Don't they know what they call that red? They try to keep you out of stuff. And if you were like me, some people call it curious, some people call it nosy, okay, but any opportunity I had to see something different, I could do it because it was okay. They encouraged it. Dr. Hill, Dr. Spencer, Dr. Fry, Dr. What's his name? His office used to be on Church Street, starts with an M. What was his name? McClure. Dr. McClure. He was there. He was the youngest. He was actually a resident at the time that I was there. Let her go. Let her go. Let her learn. Okay. They were fine. Now, would I have been able to do that at Evanston Hospital? Absolutely not. Okay. But I got to learn it at community hospital. All right. And when I came back to work there, when I worked with Janet, when it was over the Rainbow Association, a lot of those rooms were still there. And I would tell Janet, I know what happened here, and I know what happened here, and I know what happened here because I worked there. So my whole experience within the village was incredible. You had the opportunity to learn so much. Okay. And you knew people and they knew you. Okay. Which was probably the best part, was that people knew you. The other good part about it was you could never do anything wrong in town because somebody would tell on you.
That's right.
Okay. Somebody would tell on you. Okay. So you had to behave. So you didn't dishonor your parents. And so we have a rich culture here. As far as the pictures are concerned, when we cleaned out my parents' house, we got all my dad's boxes and boxes of pictures. My brother and I have to go through them. It is a task that we are somewhat dreading because I had a picture. In fact, Rodney took it to Senior Club about a year ago. It was a whole group of Black gentlemen. And I think it was we call them deacons in our church. I don't know what other churches call them, but it was very well-dressed Black men, looked like they were in their 60s and 70s, but I think they were either trustees or something. And the church was Ebenezer, okay? And Rodney said to me, how you know it's Ebenezer? I said, you have no idea why I know. I can tell by looking at the brickwork in back of them that that's Ebenezer, okay? So that's the visual, okay? Visual learner. So I remember what I see. And so I sent it to the Senior Club because I figured somebody over there would know who these people were. Nobody did. So that meant they must have been probably from my grandmother's time, right? Because the Senior Club now is more like my mother's time. So we still don't know who these people are. I think we still have the picture, don't we, in plastic. We put it in a plastic. Yeah. But I've got 3 barrels of pictures, and I have about 4 boxes of slides, and we have boxes of, believe it or not, movie reels, not the DVD kind, the kind that went on the big old projector that you showed in your living room, that kind.
Right, they can be transferred. They can be transferred to DVD now.
We know that. We just have to go through them, and we just haven't had the time to do it. Dino, I gave a lot of stuff to Dino about 3 or 4 years ago. He has my cotillion book. He has a lot of other stuff, that we sort of found, but it wasn't until we cleaned out the house that we found all that other stuff. So I don't know what's in there. Okay. And we just need to sort it out. And I don't know, maybe have a yard party or something and let everybody that's over the age of 75 come over and look at these pictures and see if they know who these people are. So we'll see. Just have to look for it. Okay. I've given the talking stick back. Janet and Amari.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so
I'm sorry.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you guys for sharing. Very interesting, and I like you guys' like energy that you guys give off. Kind of wanted to comment because I know, Mr. Greene, you were talking about working at Northwestern and working at the city of Evanston, and people are feeling like Northwestern does not do much for the city of Evanston. And it's so crazy because you kind of still hear it now. Because I work at Connections for the Homeless, and we're dealing with a lot of stuff that's going on with, you know, the Wesley residents, stuff like that. And everybody keeps coming in, you know, they're angry, they're yelling at us, and everybody keeps bringing up how Northwestern does not do anything. They're buying all these properties, they're pushing us out. Now, you know, we have to leave where we've been staying for 30 plus years, and now we can't find anything because Northwestern's buying this, buying that, buying. It's crazy. Like, it is crazy, and it's just crazy how it happened back then, and it's still happening, and it's still going on.
Agree. But again, the misunderstandings, that's what it is. We just have to educate one another. Oh, Miss Eva Coley.
No, it's me.
Oh.
It's me, Rodney.
I'm sorry.
I just, Lynn, I just wanted to ask, where did you go to elementary school? I know you said you went to Haven.
I went to Haven for elementary and junior high.
Oh, you went to Haven for elementary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Elementary, yeah. But we had to use my auntie's address.
Oh, okay.
We had to use my auntie's address because she lived over there on that side of the canal. And if you didn't live on that side of the canal, you couldn't go to school over there. Now, I didn't understand it. I just did what I was told.
Absolutely. I was
did what I was told.
I was thinking about that. So you had a grounding then already, because they're usually when you got to Haven Middle School, and at least my experience, and it even continued on to my kids' experience, who will be a little bit younger than you, there was a real difference in terms of treatment and experiences. So that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, I was there from kindergarten on, all the way up through 8th grade. And when I was in 7th grade, that was when the integration thing started. So then a whole lot of Black kids from other schools came to Haven. I think prior to that, a lot of Black kids went to Nichols and went to Skiles. But a lot didn't come to Haven. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people came to Haven, more than in the past. And so it was really integrated when I was there. But remember, I'm a boomer, so there were like 30 kids in each class. Okay, those classes were big. In fact, I was in 8-1. There were 11 8th grade classes, okay, when I was at Haven. And they were all well integrated, all of them were. I don't know about anywhere else. Some of my closest friends went to Skiles. And I only had a couple of friends that went to Nichols. And then, of course, they built Chute a little bit after that. And I know anybody who went to Chute. But that's because there were so many of us. There were so many of us at that time. So that's where I went. And I think for me, it helped a lot to know how the other half lives. You know what I'm saying? You're familiar with it. So then when you run into it, you're not surprised. You know what I mean? You kind of know what to expect. You're not surprised. You know what the language means. And you know what not to say. Okay. You know what not to say. So, and if you find something odd, and I did run into odd things, especially when I went to visit one of my dearest friends' homes. The first time she brought me home, I'll never forget this as long as I live. The maid was a Black maid that let us in. She lived over on Pioneer and Park Avenue. You know where that is? It's on the other side of the canal. And she said, no, come on, it'll be all right. I said, are you sure? So I called my parents and I called my mother and I said, I want to go over to Nell's. And she said, well, okay, we'll pick you up at 5 o'clock because you've got homework. That was my mother's favorite statement. You've got homework. So I said, okay. So we walked over to Nell's and I went in and the maid answered the door. And that woman, I swear, her lower jaw went all the way down to the floor when she saw me coming in that door with that girl. We went in. Her mother came around the corner and stopped at the dining room table, held onto the chair, looked at me and said, "Hi, honey, who's this?" And so she introduced me to her mom, and I went over and shook her hand. I said, "How do you do?" And she said, "How do you do?" And Nell says, "We're going upstairs." And we went upstairs, and we were up there. And as the day, we got there, I guess about 3:45. And as we were talking and chatting and doing things that girls do, her brother came home. And her brother, the door was open. The brother walked by, looked in the room, said hi, then backed up and looked in the room and said, "Oh, who's this?" So she said, "This is my friend Lynn." "Hi, Lynn." Then he left. Then the second brother came home. Same thing. Walked by the door, said hi, backed up. "Who's this?" "Lynn." "Oh, hi, Lynn." Went on by. Then the wife of the second brother came home. Same thing. And I was like, what's wrong with these people? You know, what's wrong with these people? Anyway, so my friend though said, "Don't worry about them. They're just so out of it." And I said, "Okay." And I don't worry about it anymore. And my dad came to pick me up. And it was funny because by the time my dad came to pick me up, her dad had come home. And I heard some talking downstairs. Next thing I know, her dad didn't walk by. He walked in the room and said, "Hey." And she said, "Hi, Daddy." She didn't move. Now, this is the difference. We were playing, I think we were like in the window seat or something on the floor. When my dad came home from work, I would always get up and go hug my dad when he came home, always. Because my father was like my best friend next to my grandmother, okay? And so she didn't move. She looked up, she said, "Hi." And she went right back to what we were doing. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. So I finally got up when she told her dad. He came in and he said, "And who are you?" I got up and reached out and took his hand and told him who I was. And then I sat back down. And I remember when my dad came to pick me up, my dad came to the door to get me. He said, "I'm here to pick up my daughter." And I remember this like it was yesterday. He looked at my father and he said, "You have quite a young lady there." Okay. So my dad, I left. After about, I would say 6 or 7 months, I was close to Nell our whole lives. We were very close friends all the way through high school. But anyway, her parents really liked my parents. I think one of the mistakes that's been made through history is people not mixing together. When you actually get to know people instead of listening to what everybody else says, you find out how much you have in common. Okay. You break down barriers. It's like, and you learn. I was always learning. Behaviors were just different. Okay. When you come in my neighborhood, there's kids playing outside. When I went to her neighborhood, there was nobody playing outside. Those kids didn't play with each other. Or if they did, you couldn't find them and you couldn't hear them. In our neighborhood, it was noisy until the streetlights came on. Okay. It's just different. And I think we missed that. I don't have that. Well, we have it in this neighborhood because we've pushed it. Okay. We've really pushed, kids being outside and playing outside. So we do. We have a lot of kids. I have a lot of kids in the neighborhood. We have about 6 kids in the neighborhood right now. All kinds. Okay. This neighborhood is no longer a Black neighborhood. It used to be, but it's not. It's mixed. We're Spanish and Middle Eastern. There's some Black families, but they're old ones. They've been here forever. Okay. They've been here forever. And then we've got 2 or 3 white families on this block. And I think there's us, cross street 1, 2, there's 3 Black families still here, that are still here, that have been here for at least 20 years. So the neighborhood has changed, but it's about learning people, accepting people, letting them accept you, and not being ashamed of anything. That makes sense? That makes sense? So do I have pictures? I think so. I have to find them. Okay. So I'm giving it back. I'm giving it back.
I just have a comment, and my comment is probably really doesn't make sense right now since you just told us about your friend. But I thought your statement when you said you went to Haven and you had good experience at Haven, and that's so much differently than what other people say about Haven. So I thought that was really different when you said that. But then you also talked about, you probably didn't think it was racism at that time, but you also talked about what really was going on later. So that's all I had to say.
Yeah, I learned, but at the time I didn't even question it. I'll tell you something else that happened to me. It was interesting. I took ballet up on Central Street, and they changed my ballet class about 4 times in a year. Okay. And I didn't understand why I was always being put in a different class. All right. And it wasn't until years later, it suddenly dawned on me why I was always being put in another class. And it's because the parents of the girls in the class didn't want their daughters, taking ballet with me.
That's right.
Okay. But I didn't figure that out for years. For years. I really didn't. And it wasn't the people running the ballet school. It wasn't them. It was the parents of the other kids that were taking ballet. And of course, I was the only little Black girl in the class. So again, the only one. The only one. So
I'm picking up the talking piece again, only to talk about Evanstonians, being an Evanstonian. And I've been in Evanston. Now I've been here over 80 something years, and I'm still not an Evanstonian. I wasn't born and raised. So I understand that. And I understand all of the things that Lynn was talking about, which is peculiar to other people in terms of how we describe Evanston. And Janet can attest to that. In our neighborhood, we would tell new people when they moved in, who owned the houses before, because that's important. And most of us know that. But my daughter shared with me that you could either be an Evanstonian or you can be Evanstonian-ish. Really interesting. And we're finding that we have more Evanstonian-ish than we do Evanstonians. So think about that as a concept for in describing being an Evanstonian, but an Evanstonian-ish. So that I thought was very interesting. I just wanted to share that.
I'm gonna take the talking piece.
Okay.
Because I was in a meeting this morning, 8:30 in the morning, which is really something for me. And that was Kim Holmes Ross, wonderful meeting, Cradle to Careers, and really wonderful turnout. And that was brought up, one of the questions to ask those that attended. Are you Evanstonian or are you Evanstonian-ish? And I'm sorry. If you live here, you pay taxes here, you buy here, I don't care if you're Evanstonian. What I don't understand, no, I disagree hotly.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah. If you live here and you pay taxes, you should be an Evanstonian.
Oh,
we got
my
the highest
God.
taxes in the country. Do you know in Alabama, they only pay $60 a year?
We weren't going into that one. Don't make me feel worse. I just got $5,000 increase on my real estate taxes, okay? So payable this year. So anyway, we Mari is are reading something.
Yeah, sorry guys. Everything's falling. Alexa, lights on. Oh, hold on, you guys. I have no lights. My light switch is off.
You didn't pay your electric bill?
Hold on, sweetheart. My electric
will
bill
happen
30.
if you don't pay it.
Oh, it's $30. I just turned the light switch off. That's it. Just can't use Alexa to turn her on. Gotta walk up and turn her on. Okay. We're okay. If you would have asked me that last month, then maybe it would have been like, man, look,
oh boy.
So I'm gonna read a poem to close us off.
Okay.
It's called We Are One.
All right.
We are powerful. Our voices matter. We are a strong community, one that can make a change. We are a community of sisters that should be as one. We are the future. Our work is not done. We are stronger than our differences make us seem. We are one community, united through love, not judgment. We are capable. We are brilliant. We are unique. We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. We stand against injustice and unite in the fight. We must join together and speak up for what is right. We are a community of empowerment, love, and light. We are one.
All right.
That's
like that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, we're closing, but really we'd love to know, thank you so much, Rodney and Lynn, for doing this. And Lynn and I did work together for many, many years at Over the Rainbow. One of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. But anyway, what are you taking away from this experience to the Greenes? So we'll have three little questions just to ask you. It's really important for the process and the work that we're doing here and what we're learning. We're learning so much from these conversations.
Can we actually ask everyone that question? What are you
Sure.
taking away?
Absolutely.
I'll just, so we could get
So
a
we
little
go
more
around,
reflection.
we may go around and not, so what are you taking away from this experience? We'll have three little questions.
Who are you asking?
Can you say all the three
Oh.
questions that Janet, so that we'll know what you're talking about?
The three are, what are you taking away from this experience? What has this circle taught you? And why are these circles important to our community?
So can I go first since I have another
Sure.
meeting in 15 minutes?
Thank you.
I'm going to answer that. This answer that I'm giving is for all three questions. What am I taking away? What did I learn? What did I experience? Everybody has a different perception to everything that goes on.
That's true.
True.
Thank you,
Was
Ms.
that it?
Eva.
God, that was short and sweet, girl.
Thank you.
Woo.
So we're gonna ask that of everyone. Who's gonna go next?
I'll go. A couple of things. I learned a difference between Greenwood Beach and Lee Street Beach. And this is so important. This is like, I can write volumes describing racial relations in Evanston just in those two phrases alone, just those two understandings, just like naming like the same street, the same beach, and it having different names and different meanings to two different communities. That is Evanston.
Yeah.
That is so much Evanston. If I can just like put it in a nutshell and say it, that's what it is. Just different understandings of the same thing. Looking at an elephant, but you're describing it by grabbing a tail. You say, no, it's a tail. And somebody say it's a trunk, but it's an elephant, but you're looking at it from different angles. And that's so important that those perspectives are both here all the time. It's so important that those perspectives are both here. It's so sad that no one will ever know who are in that picture you just described of those beautiful Black men in beautiful suits and looking so amazing. Because those are important people here. Somebody knows who they are. And we have to know that. We have to, people like me who arrive here and not just walking in here, we have to know that history. We have to know that history. So that's what I'm taking away as my answer to all three questions. We need that. Thank you.
Who's taking the next, picking it up?
I'll pick up the talking piece from the circle. One, I just want to say thank you to the Greene family. You guys brought the energy. Oh my goodness. I just been having a ball today. Oh my goodness. Y'all are something. And I guess I really want to piggyback off of what Miss Eva Coley said, because I strongly do believe that that perspective is something very important. I don't know if there's a right and wrong way to look at things. So because who am I? Who am I to even say that? I feel like it would take a million bajillion eyes to look at one thing. Like Emmerich said, like when you're looking at the whole picture, it's hard to look at it. It's hard. That's why you need those eyes. That's why you need multiple variations, size and everything like that to make this one big picture. So um I will I will I will say that to to answer those three questions because I really do strongly believe that. So thank you. Thank you. Put the talking piece back to center.
Jazz?
Yes, so I'm going to answer all three as well. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. What I'm taking away is really, who is and what is an Evanstonian because I'm not from Evanston. I grew up in Chicago. I came to Evanston in seventh grade. That was maybe like 2009 in July. So yeah, I'm an Evanston-ish, as Laura's daughter would call it. So not a true Evanstonian, but I wouldn't have known the history if you kind of did not just come in and explain it. I heard a little bit about the history when I went into the group at the Y with the Latin community, but it's good to hear the history because it's like I can only really talk about what I saw growing up, and there's a timeline as to how and why Evanston got to where it is now. And that timeline piece was missing because there's nobody. I didn't know anybody who could tell the story. So I'm kind of glad that I'm here because it's like I can hear it, and then it's like I could put pieces together. Like, oh, this is, how this happened or why this building's here. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Who are we missing? Dolores, did you answer the questions?
I didn't. Not yet.
Okay. We're losing control here. Do you want me to say them again?
No, I'm reading it.
Okay.
Amari put them in the chat, so I'm looking at it.
All right, Omari.
Am I the only one that's missing? Okay. Well, one of the things is that you can live in a community and have such different experiences, and of course, it certainly depends on the era in which you live. And being older than Lynn and Rodney, had a different experience growing up in this community. So it was very interesting to hear their perspective. I've learned some new things. I have to tell you, I did not realize that Haven had, because when I went to Haven, it was just it was sixth grade, seventh and eighth grade.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize that it had a kindergarten. And that was, of course, in the 50s. So, a K through 5, I didn't realize that. So that happened to have later. The circle has taught me that, that there was a piece of Evanston on the other side of the canal that I didn't know about. I think that these circles are important, that it does allow us to learn different perspectives and to be able to see Evanston in a different way. It was very enjoyable in walking, as you walk through different parts of the community, because it brought back lots and lots of memories in terms of that. And as you know, well, of course, by the time you grew up, there were more Black families on east of Ridge, particularly on Garnett, but not on the other street, because everything in the Fifth Ward happened west of Ridge. So that too is a new experience. So it's just really important that people learn about the way in which Evanston operates and how it has existed, with the racism being under the covers more so than out. I always find that very interesting. So that's it.
Thank you, Dolores. Pam?
Oh, take care, Miss Eva. I just wanna hang on, my dog. I'm so sorry.
They do get in the way.
That's right. We'd all be talking squirrel if it wasn't for him. Thank God we're safe. All 8 pounds of him. It is such a privilege. I mean, it truly is a privilege. And I'm Amari, I'm gonna do it. I'm going right to it, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say this because I can't separate the whiteness.
Mm.
And I think that that's the danger when we do. And so what I want to say is I grew up thinking that integration was the savior of all things and people, that Evanston's progressiveness, like full on, that it was, my dad, big lefty, right? I mean, just that this was gonna, right? That we were doing something amazing and we are uplifting everybody. And, and for me to learn the cost and what was already there, the incredible, beautiful, loving village, the incredible, beautiful community that I just, and then the heartbreak with the Evanston why, and I mean, and all, and the silence, but the earthquake of racism. I mean, just that it can be silent, but
there.
it is
It's
crushing, systemic. And so I just want to say, what a gift to be able to listen to this part of Evanston that I grew up knowing nothing about and thinking you really needed our help. You really needed to go to school with me. Okay, I mean, let's just, right? And that we were really, you're so welcome. You're welcome. And I just think,
I'm thinking we were over here roller skating and y'all were just sitting inside.
ignorance. Just what arrogance and ignorance. And I just, yeah. So thank you for letting me in and letting me bear witness, and for the beautiful community that you created, lived, continue to live. And yeah, I just thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I would like to know what your circles are, because I still don't quite understand. You keep talking about a circle, but I don't know what it is you actually do. What do you guys actually do?
Remember, circles have been in history, Lynn, with the Native Americans did peace circles. You had in Africa, tribes, you had circles. That's a concept, it's unending.
I understand that part, but what do you guys do? You guys,
we
just
our
did
name
it.
is our name is a community peace builders. So we go out and we bring our community back together, like how you guys came up growing up, and always being there for each other, supportive, keeping our kids on the right path. Same things that you guys had growing up. We're kind of trying to bring that back and be more involved with each other, be more united as well. So we don't just do our circles like within our community. We go into our schools. We talk to the students at ETHS. We're getting into District 65, and we do a lot of stuff during the summer. We also go to we did after school programs, so we went in there, and so it's very broad on what we do. And it's showing little by little. People are getting to know us in our group a lot more as we put ourselves out in the community and really show like we are here for you guys. We're not doing this just for us, but for everyone else.
I didn't think you were, but I was trying to figure out in all the things that go on within our culture, within the community. I don't know about your circles. Okay, which is understandable because I got enough to deal with just right here. Okay, but
And then they're all quiet.
I do. That man right there, I got enough to do right here.
What's your face?
There's a lot of different kinds of Lynn,
Lynn.
there are different kinds of circles.
Okay.
You know, so it depends upon on what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
You know, within a circle. Like this is a truth-telling circle.
Mhm.
I normally would be meeting in person and we would be in a circle.
Right.
Or there could be and of course now I started to talk and everything's going out of my head, but there are all types of circles that you can have depending upon the, you know, whatever say a particular neighborhood or a particular group wants. It may be in terms of having better conversations, or we had one at the Fossil Senior Club. We did a circle in terms of really trying to have a better communication circle so that people could communicate better. So it all depends. And they're led by the groups but really by whomever is there, as long as we are conscious that we want to honor each other, you know, and everything that's in the circle stays in the circle. We practice honesty and as I said, confidentiality, and just really listening. And as Emery said from the beginning, listening from your heart, making sure that you're hearing what people are saying, and being available to give some good feedback.
All right, thank you.
And for me, it's a no judgment zone. And we did one in Dolores and my neighborhood is Western Area Block Club. And we have a very, very changing neighborhood. And there are feelings by many people about many things. And we need to do it again. Just imagine this was peaceful, that if around of the world we were circling up is kind of the way they say it, and sharing honestly from our hearts. And sometimes circles are about person harmed someone and the person who was harmed is in the same circle making the decision as to how to go forward. And that circles is quite a concept. And restorative justice is the other thing that the Moran Center is doing. Hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have a restorative justice court in Evanston. So rather than people have to call the police or, you know, you got to go to jail, you know, you got a minute of marijuana in your pocket, or, you know, it used to be when my cousins, they broke windows, you know, they broke somebody's windows. So they'd have to do something. Maybe they'd have to, I don't know, mow the lawn for 30 days. I don't know. But so the circles can be a lot of different things based on the need or the wants of the people. So we thank you so much, Rodney and Lynn. I knew that talking was not going to be a problem. so I knew it would be okay.
No, she can go. She can go. you get her started, and it's like can't put a plug in it.
Oh God, I thank you because we're laughing. I mean, you know, we learned and we were quiet and we actually listened to people and we came together. And I really just each and every one of you that participated tonight, thank you. Everybody made it the way it is. So it started with the.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun. Lot of fun.
This has been fun.
We thank you.
Well, I could tell the smiles on the faces too, and poor Amari. Goodness, I thought she gonna fall out.
She was there.
She had to put her hand over her mouth.
Yeah, she hung in there real good. I was looking at that, Rodney. I saw that.
You saw it too, didn't you?
Hey, as I lead these circles, I still have my code that likes to be funny in the background sometimes. So she helps bring it all along. So as much as you guys are funny, she's funnier too. I wish y'all could hear her sometimes.
And Lynn, 2 hours. Remember Glenn said, well, I just was wondering what was I going to be saying for 2 hours or something like that. So it's 6:05.
And look at you took an hour and a half on her own.
I said, listen, I know you don't have to worry about it. I know talking is not going to be the issue. No, so thank you.
Especially about the past, because it was so rich. It's so rich. There's so much to say, and fewer people to discuss it with.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that I hope your circle somehow or other tells the children and the children and the children, so that they know that what they see now wasn't what always was.
It wasn't.
You know, it wasn't what it always was.
It's rough, isn't it? I mean, coming from where we came, we were intimate with street lights, because you know you better be home before.
I know.
This